Amy and Mark go back out into the hallway. As they walk by the falling body of the laughing creature, it suddenly becomes active again. The laughing begins again, and it grabs Amy's ankle. She screams in terror. Mark kicks the creature, causing it to let go of Amy and turn its attention toward him. Amy draws her gun and shoots the monster in the head, finishing it off for good. The teenagers go back out to the staircase. They can hear the crying of a wailer coming from further down the staircase. They start moving down the staircase and soon see the creature slowly shambling toward them. I remember from before, Amy begins, that these things move slowly, but they're pretty nasty to fight. I don't know if we should waste our precious ammo on it. I think we should just run past it. Defying all logic, Mark and Amy start running toward the creature without drawing their weapons or preparing for a fight. As they move past the monster, it tries to take a swipe at them, but it's too slow to make contact with them. Still, that doesn't stop Mark and Amy from wincing as they get so close to the creature that they could touch it if they wanted to. They run all the way back down to the ground floor and out into the reception hall again. As they walk through the reception hall, they can hear the sound of a heartbeat. It starts out softly and gets louder as they get closer to the exit. They tremble as they exit the building, but they see nothing outside except their bikes. Even the rain and thunder are gone. The teens get on their bikes and start to pedal toward the docks. Then, a heart creature jumps out and starts chasing them. Amy and Mark pedal as fast as they can, desperate to outrun the monster. As the heart creature chases the teens, it takes swipes at them with its arms. They duck their bodies and swerve their bikes to avoid the attacks. It tries to grab their bikes, but they turn out of the way. Then, another heart creature jumps out and joins in the chase. The two monsters regularly take swipes at Mark and Amy and try to grab their bikes. The attacks come so frequently that the teenagers spend almost no time moving in a straight line. They're almost always turning and weaving and swerving, trying to avoid the attacks. Finally, the two teenagers reach the docks. While still pedaling their bikes, they survey the boats available. Most of the boats look like they would be too much for just two people to pilot. Then, Amy and Mark spot a little canoe. "Let's take that canoe," Mark says. Mark and Amy rush so quickly to get off their bikes that they practically jump into the canoe from the bikes. As they paddle away, they can see that the docks are now swarming with numerous monsters. Mark takes up his oar and prepares himself. "You keep paddling," he says. "I'll fight them off while we get away." A zombie jumps off the edge of the dock and toward the canoe. Mark swings his oar, whacking the zombie away and into the water. Two screaming creatures jump off the edge of the docks. Mark swings his oar, knocking one away, but the other manages to get into the boat. It grabs Mark's leg. He raises his leg and starts shaking it vigorously. The screaming creature finally lets go and gets thrown into the water. A laughing creature jumps toward the canoe. Mark swings, but the creature is agile enough that it avoids his attack and lands in the canoe. It bites his oar with its huge mouth. While struggling with the creature, Mark kicks it, knocking it off the edge of the canoe and into the water. At this point, the teens are far enough away from the edge of the docks that no more monsters try to jump into the canoe. Amy and Mark put down their oars and take a chance to catch their breath. "Maybe," Amy begins, sounding remorseful, "I haven't been the best sister, either. You say you never gave me a chance to prove myself, but really, I never gave you a reason to believe that I cared about our parents. I'm always so focused on the negative that I didn't appreciate what I had. I thought I might be in that orphanage forever, and then they came along and took me in. I must have seemed so ungrateful. But the truth is that I am so thankful to them for what they did. Right now, my greatest fear is that I will never get to tell them how much I care about them." There is a long pause. Mark and Amy sit in silence. No one says anything. Then, the sound of beating hearts can be heard in the distance and getting louder. Heart creatures are swimming through the water toward the canoe. "Oh, God damn it!" Mark says in a combination of frustration and disbelief. Amy and Mark grab their oars and prepare for battle. The heart creatures dive under the water and can no longer be seen. The teenagers turn their heads around frantically, waiting for the monsters to resurface. While we have the chance, Mark says, let's get our... Knowing what Mark is trying to say, Amy reaches down to try to draw her gun. Suddenly, an arm reaches up out of the water and swipes at Amy. She's knocked down and her gun falls out of her hands. On the other side of the boat, a heart creature jumps up out of the water and high into the air. It swings its arms down at Mark. He puts his oar up to shield himself. The monster twists its arms around the oar and grabs Mark's body. It tries to pull him into the water. Mark grabs the side of the boat to stabilize himself and starts smacking the monster's arms with his oar. It finally lets go and retreats back underneath the water. Then, a heart creature bursts out of the water on Amy's side of the boat. She looks down at her gun but realizes that she doesn't have enough time to reach it. She swings her oar and whacks the creature away. On Mark's side of the boat, a creature grabs the side of the boat and starts trying to climb in. Mark swings down hard with his oar, knocking the monster back down into the water. There is another pause as the heart creatures remain under the water. "No mistakes this time," Mark says, drawing his gun as he speaks. Amy takes the opportunity to pick up her gun. Suddenly, the two heart creatures burst out of the water at once, one coming from either side. Mark and Amy fire until their two guns won't fire anymore. The monsters fall down and then float in the water, motionless. Relieved that the attacks have finally stopped, the teenagers paddle away. Chapter 5. Phantom Forest. Mark and Amy eventually come to a shoreline and disembark from their canoe. In the distance they can see a dead forest. All of the trees are devoid of leaves, and their branches are gnarled and twisted. The teens proceed into the forest. The ground starts shaking again, like it has before, but this time they simply ignore it and push on. The shaking stops as they come across the corpse of a researcher. On the corpse they can see a shotgun and ammunition for the shotgun. "It's about time," Amy says. "I'll take that." Amy picks up the shotgun and pockets the ammo. "Look," Mark says. "He's carrying a note. Let's light the candle so we can read what it says. Maybe we'll finally learn something useful." Mark and Amy light their candle and read the note. "I think we may have finally come to a breakthrough in this mystery. We noticed one of the zombified animals behaving very strangely, even for a zombie. It dug a hole in the ground, got in the hole, and then covered itself up with earth. The next day, we decided to go back to the site where the hole was and dig it up. Inside, we saw a hibernating creature that looked like a halfway point between a zombie and one of the other monstrosities we've seen. This must mean that, after someone turns into a zombie, they later turn into a monster. Before, we thought there was no explanation for where the monsters came from. Now we know their exact origins. However, we still don't know why these transformations are occurring. I have to make a run back to the city so I can tell the researchers at the lab what we found out, before it's too late." Amy falls to her knees. Barely able to speak, she says, "Oh, no." "What is it?" Mark asks. "I think those two monsters," Amy begins, "the ones that won't stop chasing us, are our parents. I know you're going to say I'm just being pessimistic, but it makes sense if you'll listen to me. We know that people can transform all the way into monsters. We've encountered exactly 2 of that kind of monster, and they keep chasing us even when all of the other monsters give up." "I don't think you're being pessimistic," Mark says. "After reading that note, I was thinking the same thing. Now that I know you had the same thoughts, I'm almost sure it's true." "What are we going to do now?" Amy asks hopelessly. "We're going to the researchers' camp," Mark says decisively. "We will find a way to save our parents." Amy's mouth drops. She's completely speechless. Tears form in her eyes. "What's wrong?" Mark asks. Amy smiles as tears run down her cheeks. "You called them our parents," she says. Amy hugs Mark. After a moment, he hugs her back. their tender moment is interrupted by the mysterious voice that they heard earlier speaking once again. "Why do you cling to hope?" the voice asks. "Don't you realize that all is already lost?" "Is someone there?" Mark asks, looking around, but there is no reply.